Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Live Your Spa Life show. Spa life is a lifestyle that accepts that accomplishment and harmony coexist. The Spa and Spa Life, the SPA, is for seek power always. That power within you to do your greater work in the world. I am so delighted and excited to have my next guest, who is a dear friend and just a trailblazer in the world, MaryAnn Birkbeck, who is a lifestyle expert, and she believes that self-care should be essentially exquisite and a priority. This is a woman after my own heart. She believes that we have the chance to live one brilliant life that we get to curate so that we live a life that we don't want to escape from. MaryAnn also uses the personality typing tool, the Enneagram, in her life coaching practice. MaryAnn considers herself a late bloomer whose time is now and who wants to empower women to live their best life now and not to put it off. MaryAnn, welcome to the show.
Hey, Diane. Thank you so much.
So, girl, why is it you think of yourself as being a late bloomer?
Well, how do I put this? When I was growing up, it was, who do you think you are? You know, don't speak up, don't speak out. It was just how it was then. And of course, my children now are the exact opposite. They are so full of their opinions and all the rest of it. And yeah, and I think turning 60 was a big thing for me. And I just thought, if not now, then when?
Right. I love it. It is, I mean, first of all, you look fantastic. And I love your focus on self-care and just how important that is. And I think that is just a, you know, for those of us who know that the other side, where there are times that we've, you know, dragged ourselves through things and we've worked harder and we've not maybe taken care of ourselves at just the level that we could have. I think that really, really makes a difference, especially as we get older and we make that more of a priority. And I know that self-care has really elevated for you, and you've got some specific self-care tips that really has made a big difference for you. And I'd love for you to share some of that.
Well, for me, if you don't put yourself first, no one else will. That's number one. And you know, it's just so important to, I mean, self-care is different for everyone. Like, I have a girlfriend whose self-care is gardening. I would rather shoot myself in the foot than get out in the garden. So for me, it's like having a beautiful bath with some candles and all the rest of it. So it's so different. You know, it can be music, it can be getting out in nature, it can be looking at art. You know, whatever self-care is for you, if you don't prioritize it, no one else will make the time for it. And I really do believe that if you're tolerating something, whether it be a broken light bulb or, you know, the car's messy or whatever it is, if you zap those tolerations, life just gets better. And if you curate your environment, like for me, as I'm sitting here talking to you, everything just looks lovely for me. And, you know, just decluttering, and you're the queen of this, you know, you're the queen of organization. If I love a bare shelf, you know, just an empty shelf, it just makes me so happy. And as you know, if you curate your environment so that it's perfect for you, you just show up better in the world.
Yes, yes. And I love this expanded version of self-care. And, you know, I love an Epsom bath, and I love having candles, and I love the spa experience. But I love the next level conversation of self-care, of your environment and what you're choosing to do each day. Like, to really be at choice is such a freedom and such a choice that you get to make in designing your life. And I think it is so important. And I love mentioning about the environment. And it is important to have these clear spaces and to see what is it that really speaks to you in your space and what really actually matters. And I love too about the tolerations, because I think that tolerations aren't necessarily a one and done, because I don't know about you, but I think that sometimes, especially if I'm coming home from traveling, or, a change in season or things happen, new tolerations can pop up, and it's important for us to notice like what some of those things are and what we can do different about them. So what have you noticed as far as maybe a toleration that has recently popped up for you?
Well, that's a really good point, because if you're tolerating something, it's like a low-grade resentment, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And, we've only got so much energy that we can expand into the world. And if you're tolerating something, that energy just gets dissipated. And, well, for me, like where I live here in Paddington, um, we've got palm trees, and they drop their fronds and they're just all over the pathways, and it annoys me like you would not believe. So if my gorgeous husband Mark just goes along and picks them up and puts them in a pile, I am so happy, because then I'm no longer tolerating them. And that's such a superficial example, but it can be so many little things. Well, like, just cleaning your makeup brushes. If you don't do it, you're tolerating it. You've just got to get in and get it done.
Right. Well, and I actually love that you're mentioning some of these things that are, people may not think of as top awareness, but it is the little things that become the big things. And I think it's the
Exactly.
things that we actually walk past in our home every single day that we start then tolerating, not even seeing them anymore. And I used to notice that, going into some of my clients, and there would be stacks of things, and they would just get so used to walking past them that they weren't even seeing them anymore. And these are kind of the things that are like subconsciously taking our energy away from us, and, not allowing us to be fully in our energy, fully embrace our space, and to really just look at, again, choosing how you're living your life and what that looks like. And, this also expands into the people in our life as well. And you speak about making edits to the people in your life and in your circle of influence. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I absolutely can. And you will know the gentleman that I'm talking about, Jim Rohn. He says, you are the sum of the 5 people that you have in your life. But it's also who you are tolerating in your life, and that can be family. And if you have someone that is, I'm just going to say the word toxic in your life, and it can be your children, it can be your parents, it can be your aunts and uncles, whoever, and you can't not do Thanksgiving, you can't not do certain things, but what you can do is limit your exposure. Like if they call you up, be in a hurry. Say, hey, listen, I've only got 5 minutes. Let them know in advance that you've got to get off the phone call. Because honest to God, my ex-sister-in-law, who will never watch this podcast, by the way, she used to zap my energy to the point that I would just want to throw myself off the balcony. So, but as you grow and evolve, you no longer let those people influence you, but you've got to have a system of managing them. And it's always be in a hurry, get off the phone, and limit your exposure.
Yes, I think this is so important. And, especially with, things that are happening in the world today as well, I think that there can be a toleration, even like on social media, of just the barraging of negativity from a lot of people. And there's a difference between standing up for your freedoms and really, sharing your opinion. And I also think that, people need to be able to voice their own opinions, but be tolerant of what others people's like side of view is without completely going ballistic on people. This is something that I found really an interesting dynamic. I don't know if you're seeing this in Australia, where it's like if somebody has a differing opinion than you, people will blast them. It's very interesting how some of that is happening. And so this could also be another level of toxicity of, you know, really knowing the difference of people who are having a healthy dialogue of opinions versus people that are putting people down. And that's where we can get the boundaries of our tolerations of who we're having in our space. What are we allowing to be even in our virtual space? What's been your experience with that?
Well, it's so interesting that you bring that up because I don't know if you know it or not, but my mother was from Texas. So all of my cousins are Texan. And let's just say they have very strong political opinions. So my children also follow them. And it's so interesting. So two of my sons have gone down this, what I call the scroll hole of social media. And all of a sudden, you know, it's whether you had an opinion or not, now you do have an opinion on gun rights or whatever the politics is. And it can be so toxic and so negative. And my gorgeous husband, Mark, he's actually blocked a few people because they are just so boisterous in their opinions. And yes, I do believe that you should have your opinion. However, if you're on social media, no one should know whether you're red or blue. No one should know whether you're pro-vax or whatever your religion is. You know, I believe that you should be neutral because otherwise you cannot influence people for the greater good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I can definitely see that. And then having those boundaries around what that looks like. And we all get to have these choices as far as who's in our space and you know, knowing people. In fact, I love how you use the Enneagram. And, you know, how is it that you are utilizing this tool like in your business? And first of all, which one are you?
Well, I am what's called Sexual 7. And the Enneagram is a personality typing tool that doesn't put you in a box, it releases you out of the box. So it's 9 different viewpoints or 9 different ways of looking at the world. And each one of them is completely validated. There's no, just because you're a 1 or a 9 doesn't mean that it's any different validity. And it changed my life so much to the point that when I met my now husband Mark, it was, we need to explore this or we're not going to be together. So we did all of the trainings together for me a second time. And it was so funny, Diane, because I had always thought that my father was just an oddbod. And it turned out he was an Enneagram type 5 and an introvert. And it wasn't that he didn't like me, he just didn't like me in big doses because that was his personality type. And it was so fascinating. And as I sort of looked at everybody that was in my world, I thought, oh, that's interesting. That's how they look at it. And it's been so useful for me with my children and my grandchildren and just everybody that's in my life and clients that I work with. It has just changed everything because no one's right, no one's wrong. It's just how they look at the world. And it's just fascinating for me because it's a personality typing system, but it's also a symbol as well. And it's just changed my life totally.
I love it. I love personality tools. I love any kind of personal growth tools. I think it's, you know thyself is such an important thing. And I'm an 8. So I'm the challenger. So I get how you say different personalities where I can push buttons for people. And typically it's because I want people to grow and to just be able to just see what's next for them and just be able to open that up. And I can see how I've utilized that, in my own coaching business and working with people is, that's our role as mentors, is to really have people shift and up level and really look at the things that they're not actually seeing. So I love these tools, and I love what that looks like. And I love that, there is, the 9 different ones, and honoring that, no one is better than the other, that everyone, it helps explain what it is our passions are and what that looks like. And I think that the personality types, they allow us to see what's unique about us, what is, our contribution and what that looks like. And I think traditionally, particularly with, women leaders, is, there's not always been a time where women have supported women, and depending on what circles that they're in, there can be that competitive edge. And I think that that is something that is evolving, and again, being at choice at who you're spending your time with and who is in your inner circle. Tell us a little bit about, have you compared yourself to other women along your journey, and how do you look at that now, and how does that impact who you are?
It's so funny that you should bring that up, because before I was introduced to the Enneagram, I used to compare myself to other women. And comparison, as you know, is the thief of joy, because I could be looking at someone's chapter 28 when I'm at just chapter 2. And it's just like comparing apples with oranges. You just can't do that. And, like for me, you're an 8, and you are so well developed that it's very difficult to type you. And that's what all the teachers that I've had have said, that, if you really struggle typing someone, they're really well integrated, because with the 9 levels, there's it's 9 psychological levels as well. Like, for example, Michelle Obama, she's an 8. And she doesn't come across as intrusive or man-hating or anything like that. She is just the bomb.com, quite frankly. And like Oprah, there's just so many well-known figures that are just so integrated and so well. But then again, you can sort of also look at the other side of that, especially with what's coming out now with the Me Too movement. Once you understand and know the Enneagram, you can think, oh, well, that's obvious. So it's just so interesting. And like my husband, he's a 6, so he's all about loyalty and trust, and like, he's my rock. Give him a rubber band and 2 pencils and he could build a rocket and go to the moon. He's so he's just awesome. And your partner Kerry, he is just awesome, off the charts. And once you understand the Enneagram, it just changes your life. It really does.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and, all these different tools, and, as we move through, our businesses and life, and just, what we focus on, we also, I love having the tools that allow us to be better. Right. And I know sometimes as we're moving through things, there's times where we can react from a place of fear versus being fierce and really standing in it and looking at that. And I'd just love for you to share a little bit about your interpretation of fear, how you move through it, and what are some of your tools in that?
Well, for a long time, I gave in to the fear, and then I had someone explain it to me that it was false evidence appearing real. And I do believe that if you face the fear, it just makes you stronger, because whatever it was, it's probably not a big deal, unless it's sort of like really bad trauma. But, for me, it was other people's opinion of me for the longest time. And then I thought, well, actually, I don't really care what you think about me. And that changed my life totally. Because, you know, you think, well, as my mother would say, well, hell's bells, who cares, you know? And yeah, and I think if you face the fear and you can step into it and step through it, you know, Abraham Hicks says it, it just makes you stronger. It makes you more powerful.
Yeah, agreed. I love one of the acronyms for fear is face everything and rise.
Ah, love it, love it.
So it's just great to see what are the other sides of things, and you know, being able to see how we can move through things. And you know, in all of our experiences along the way and in the journey, one of the things I really loved, one of my mentors had mentioned that that failure is actually on the same road to success, that you may hit different bumps along the way, but it's on the same road, and it's all part of the experience of actually getting to that. And I think it's so important for our listeners to hear about what were some of the like disempowering moments in your life, and you know, how you moved through those and how you were able to stand more in your power now.
Well, I would say that the most disempowering period of my life was when I realised that I needed to leave my first husband. And I didn't want to do it because as an Enneagram type 7, I had painted it so that it was the picture perfect Kodak moment. And I would have to say that I was slowly dying. How do I say this kindly? Just tolerating everything that was going on in my life. And I will say it took me probably 3 years to get up the courage to leave, but I systematically planned the exit, and I'm not proud of that. However, you do what you have to do when you're dealing with certain personality types. And I will say that I tolerated a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have. I became invisible, Daisy doormat. But once I left, I had the inner strength and the fortitude and the power to be able to stand up for myself. And that's now what I can teach women to do or not to do. And that makes me really, really proud of myself because I did it.
Yes. What do you think is that distinguishing moment where you go from allowing a space, a relationship, something that's not working for you, to something clicks, something shifts, something changes, where you now have empowered yourself and you stand in that? What do you think that click moment was for you?
Well, I can tell you exactly what it was because I've got 2 daughters, and I was actually modeling to them what not to do. And I thought, if I don't get out now, they are going to become Daisy doormats, or they will tolerate less than perfect behaviour. And it was just one moment when I allowed myself to be disrespected, and I thought, no more. And it was, yeah, and I have to say that my 2 daughters now, they are strong, powerful women that will take CRAP from no one. And I'm really proud about that. But had I not left, it wouldn't have been that way.
Right, right. You know, there's always that, you know, in hindsight, and be able to look back, that, you know, we don't always see it in the exact moment we're in. But I think it's such an important exercise to do. And I do this a lot with my clients, where we look at what were some of those disempowering moments, and what was the blessing in that? How did that actually happen for you? How did that actually build up your fortitude to now be able to serve the people you're here to serve, to actually be a stronger person today than you maybe were then, and to actually have that evolution to really make that difference of who you are and what you're doing. I mean, don't you find that who you are for women today is just eons ahead of where you first started?
Well, I will say that I hired myself a coach, and I'll never forget it. She said, "MaryAnn, no is a complete sentence. Use it.
Yes.
And I love that because I now have an absolute yes list and an absolute no list. Things that I will say yes to and things that I absolutely will say no to. And you've got to come from, that place of empowerment. And I really do believe that we make decisions from our three centers, our head, our heart, and our belly. So it's what do I think, what do I feel, and what do I know? And if all three centers line up, it's let's just do it. But if there's that one little niggle, and it's usually our intuition kicking in, and if that's sort of not lining up, don't do it. And and I've actually forgotten what the question was.
No, we were just talking about the evolution of who we were, early on in our careers and the evolution of that. And when we really start utilizing the things that were challenging along the way, those actually become the foundation of how we actually serve people now.
Yes. So I will say that all of the, well, I'll give you one example. My ex-husband, his way of controlling me was through time. And this was before the days of mobile phones. So, if I was supposed to meet him at 12 o'clock, for him to be powerful, he would meet me at 12:30. But, there was no way that I could call and say, hey, have I got the time right or the time wrong? And that has made me very aware that time is our most important currency. Money is great, love it. However, time is also something that we get to spend. And if you spend it unwisely, like waiting for someone to show up, my husband Mark's, he's on a board where there's 9 members. And if everybody's 15 minutes late, that's a lot of time that's wasted. So it just makes you, like, for example, I plan my day the night before, and I know exactly what I'm doing today. I know exactly, how I'm going to spend my time. And if you don't plan your time, you're just wasting it. It's such a valuable currency. And I can remember that one of the first things that Mark and I did together was we went on a hay house cruise, and we got to share, believe it or not, a lifeboat with Wayne Dyer. And he was so wise, he would just offhand say something. And, that man changed my life totally. And I still listen to his recordings to this day. And he just said that, if you don't spend your time wisely, someone else will do it for you. Yeah. And that was so powerful for me.
Yeah, I love that. And, one of my favorite tools is to be able to look at what it is that you're doing the night before. And that is so powerful. You will sleep more soundly. You'll know, like, hey, when do I need to be somewhere? If I'm going somewhere, what do I need to have with me? Is everything kind of in row? And you actually get to have deeper sleep when you have kind of that rest assurance of what that looks like. And, Wayne Dyer is just a master, and I love what he has to say as well. And I just think that it's so important that we do get to design, that we get to choose. There are no have tos. The people that are saying have to, that comes from a victim mentality. We get to do things, we get to choose. And when we don't choose, then people determine it for us. And we want to be able to have, that empowerment in our life to make those decisions, to really show up in a more powerful way. And I think, again, coming back to our environments that we were talking about, one of the things I love asking my guests is, you have just beautified all of your space, but I think we live differently. We have different experiences in the different aspects of our home. So we feel and act differently in our bedroom than we do our office or our kitchen. So what's your favorite room in your home and why?
Well, Diane, that's just an awful question. I love my bedroom because it just makes me happy, because I put a chandelier in there and it just twinkles, and that makes me happy. My living room makes me happy because it's all black and white and it's artfully curated. However, I have just redone my office and I have bare shelves in there, and that just makes me happy. So, but then again, my back deck makes me happy because I wanted that to be all black and white and look like Ralph Lauren or Tommy Bahama had just stepped off. So, I'm happy wherever I am. I can make, my world happy. And I think you've got to curate and edit your life, because if you don't, someone else will. And I just think it's so important that it's not so much what you add to your life, it's what you remove from it. And Marie Kondo, she does it so beautifully. It's if I'm deciding, whether or not I want this, do I love it? Maybe, but would I buy it again? If you wouldn't buy it again, it's gone. And I also don't believe that you should have things in your life that someone's given you out of a sense of obligation. Like if someone gives you something and you think, oh my God, Aunt Flossie's coming, I have to put this out. Don't do that. It's just, you've got to surround yourself with things that bring you joy and light and love.
Yes. I love that you brought this up, because this is such an important concept that I always, share with clients, friends, anybody, because I think this is a tough space for someone, because, the gifts that people receive, they love the person, right? But they may not love the thing that they actually received. And the energy actually happens when the person gave you that gift. And that's where the love got transferred. And that's where the energy comes into. But you lose that energy if you keep it and it's not something that you love. And so it's actually more empowering to pass that on so someone else can love it, and that the gift is that gift that keeps on giving. And so when we all look at this broader perspective and we are really loving what's in our space, and it's energizing us, and the people and all these different layers that really support us in our life, and versus the things that are bogging us down and that actually aren't helping us expand or evolve or do the things that we're up to. So I love the edit. I think it's so important to look at it in all the different areas. It's, our space, our relationships, our business, not all business is good business, and, who we're choosing to do business with, and, who and how we're spending our time is so, so important. And I think that in this time period where people are having the opportunity to be more self-reflective of how they're choosing to spend their time and who it's with and what they're doing, this can be a very powerful time for us all to be together. And I think that it's amazing. And I know that our listeners are going to want to stay in contact with you. And how can they do that?
Well, I'm on Facebook and Instagram as MaryAnn Birkbeck, Birkbeck.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good.
And I have to say too, Diane, that we get to choose our environment. We get to curate it. And it's up to us to put ourselves first, because if we don't, no one else will, because we teach people how to treat us by how we treat ourselves. And it's just so important to prioritize self-care.
Yes, I love that. And I'd love for us just to end with, I'm really focusing on how people are being positive disruptors. Like, how are you shifting and changing things in the world in a positive way?
Well, I really believe that if we put ourselves first, it's the old, the oxygen mask comes down, look after yourself first, because I believe, I really do, that how we treat ourselves reflects out into the bigger world. And people think, oh, well, Diane, she doesn't think twice about looking after herself. And is she selfish? No, she's just a positive influence. And I really think that if we treat ourselves well, that reflects well to other people, and they think, well, she's not arrogant, she's not full of ego, she's just treating herself really well. And if we don't do it, no one else will.
Such wise words, such an important concept for people to do that. And I think it's so important to, so many times women will put themselves last, whether it's their children, their work, whatever that looks like. And, you know, at the end of the day, that's where you end up exhausted and dragging, and that's things that start adding up, and that's where people get sick, right? And your body, your essence knows that if you're not going to give it the time, it's going to make the time in terms of health issues and things that could come up. So I value that so much in so many different ways. And I think that we can't tell our listeners that enough, that you really do need to take some moments, even if you have to close yourself in your closet and take some deep breaths, you know, on some of those more hectic days, whatever you need to do to grab that time to restore yourself and ground yourself so that you show up as the best version of yourself is so, so important. So I just,
Well,
go ahead.
and I'll just add on to that. If you don't, resentment is so anti-aging. It's so aging, it's just not funny. Because if you sit from that space of being resentful that your husband hasn't done something, or, you know, the world hasn't done something, it makes you bitter, it makes you twisted, and you get unhappy lines on your face.
So important. Another great reason to take care of ourselves and to be the best version of who we are. So, MaryAnn, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with our listeners, and it's just always a pleasure to connect with you.
I just love you, Diane, so much.
Love you. And to our listeners, you are the reason we are here. You know, we were talking about time and how important that asset is, and we so appreciate you spending your time here with us. And this is, you know, how you can help getting positive messages in the world. Please share this. Please subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and share some comments. You know, we would love to hear, you know, what do you want to hear more of? Do you have a question for either MaryAnn or myself? Make sure you tag both of us. We'd be happy to answer any of your questions that you have. And until we connect again, live your spa life. Bye for now. Bye-bye.